Podsters, we have an oldie, a goodie, and a quickie for you this week. This week, you are in for a treat with a rerun of one of our most popular episodes, Letting Go of What's No Longer Serving You. Super fun, by the way. Beth Knauss, the original co founder of Unmute Yourself, the podcast. This is an episode that Beth and I recorded together, and that's always super fun and brings me joy. It's a quickie, and we talk about, particularly this time of year, purging, letting go, people, places, things, situations, habits, beliefs, all of them. Letting go of these is what you have to do in order to make room for the new. And another reason why I am repeating an episode, I'm always going to be honest with you, Podsters, is that for the past several months, probably, I've been going through some personal stuff that all came to a head this week. I believe it is behind me. Everything's fine. I'm fine physically with my health and everything. Danny and I are great. My family's all good. And when I can, I will absolutely break it down here because what I learn, I want you to be able to learn. And the tools that I use, I want you to be able to use. So for 2 years, I have been showing up at this microphone every week, and I simply could not do it this week. And it's interesting, Podsters, because I called Jen, my podcast producer, and I said, Jen, I can bang one out, but I just don't think it'll be good. I just don't think it'll be authentic. And I would rather rerun a really great episode. And she agreed. So that brings us to this week's episode. I love you all. I have no doubt I will be back full force next week. As a matter of fact, I am taking an opportunity. Side note, there is a giant turkey walking by my window. I mean, this thing is like the size of a Volkswagen. I'm taking a little break, a little rest and relaxation break myself for a few days to regroup and recalibrate my nervous system and kind of get everything back together again. So I love you all. I look forward to seeing you next week. And in the meantime, here's how to let go of what's no longer serving you. Peace out, Podsters. Till next week. Are you ready to speak up, stand out, and get your seat at the table? If so, you're in the right place. Welcome to Unmute Yourself, the podcast where you'll get real-life anecdotes and actionable tools for you to step into your strengths, debunk imposter syndrome, truly know your worth, and show up like you own the room every time. I'm your host, Nancy Medoff, who did the thing and followed my passion for empowering women like you to unleash that inner spark and become who you know you are meant to be. I'm a diehard foodie with a raging Skittles habit who will not stop until women everywhere unmute themselves and truly thrive at work, at home, or wherever you may be. Let's do this. What's up, Beth?
Hey, Nance. How's it going over there?
So it's going interesting today. Should we tell the Podsters what just happened 3 minutes ago as I was getting ready?
Sure, because it can happen to anyone.
It could happen to anyone, and it's not that big of a deal, but I've been having a morning where I've been a little frenetic and off and just, I don't know, a little out of sorts, which makes for a great podcast, Beth pointed out to me. And I'm like, where's my water? Where's my water? I drank water from a can, sparkling water. Where's my water? Where's my water? And then I heard boom, clunk. Do, 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 do. And I'm like, oh, there's my water. It was right behind my computer, and now it's all over my floor. So there's that.
Yeah, but so my question to you, Nancy, is it true that as we head into our second year of podcasting, that we have recorded 55 episodes?
Yeah, I got to say, I'm pretty impressed with us because that's almost one a week. I mean, our commitment was to do one a week, and we've done one a week. I mean, it's just a commitment. I'm impressed, Beth. I'm impressed with you, with me, with the Podsters. I mean, we've really built this mega podcast brand together.
Yes, absolutely. We set our expectations and we blew past them.
We did indeed. Speaking of which, well, that would have been a great segue into what we had to let go of in order to do the podcast. Did you hear about Beyonce, who did the gender reveal on stage?
I did not. Tell me.
So cute. So as you all probably are aware, we are big fans of Queen Bey over here. She had a big concert, and this woman was holding up a sign in the front row and said, "Please do my gender reveal," right? So Beyonce stops the concert and says, "Hang on a second. What do you want me to do? You want me to open your envelope?" And the woman, You want me to, okay, somebody get me the envelope." So her security guards or whoever gets the envelope, she opens the envelope. I'm going to get choked up. She opens the envelope on stage and she goes, "Girls," because you know that song, "Who Runs the World? Girls." The woman was having a girl,
Wow.
and Beyonce gender revealed it.
Nice. Mm,
Crazy.
that
This
is
just
crazy.
goes to show you get what you ask for,
That's
right?
right. If you don't ask, you don't get.
I'm sure this woman didn't really think Beyonce was gonna do it, and she did. I love that story. That's a better story to start with.
Yes.
Anywho, what kind of limiting beliefs do you think that woman had to let go of in order to ask Beyonce to do her gender reveal on stage?
Well, she probably had to let go of the fact that she might get rejected, and Beyonce would be like, I'm not doing this for some peon in my audience, or
Exactly.
people would make fun of her, or who knows? What do you think?
Mhm. Yeah. So that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about letting go of what no longer serves you. And the reason why we're talking about this today, we've been batting this idea back and forth for a while. Beth and I are both really big fans of letting go of what no longer serves you. And last week we talked about how to do the thing, which
Mhm.
great timing by the way. The doors are going to open probably in about a week for my do the thing retreat. I have dates October 13th through 15th. It's a weekend on Cape Cod, 9 people total. And in order to, one of the first steps, by the way, there's a link to that in the show notes. One of the first steps is to let go of the belief that you don't deserve or you don't get to do the thing. And I was writing the copy for the sales page for this. Usually, I would hire Beth to write my copy, but I was under the gun and had to get this done. One of the things that I said was that I coach women, hundreds of women, and it's always the same. It's that belief that you don't get to do it. Like, you don't get to live this life. You don't get to do the thing and be enjoy what's on the other side of your fear because that's for other people. So that's a pretty big limiting belief that we hope by the end of this podcast you can let go of.
Yep,
What? What?
absolutely.
Okay. So, Beth,
Yes.
why would you want to let go of what no longer serves you?
Oh, gosh, because those things, well, they obviously served a purpose at some point. So either it's something you had that protected you, right? Kept you safe, kept you familiar, and you were okay with that. Or sometimes it's something we've carried with us. We talk about this often on the podcast from maybe how you grew up in the environment and it served at that point. But nothing lasts forever, right? And so we get to these points where even though we might feel safe, we can't move forward unless we let go of these things, right? It's like opening the gate for the horses at the track, right? They can't run until you can't take the gate. So you don't know if you can win unless someone lets you out of the gate, right? And I think we get to the point where we're like, okay, do I think I want to win? Do I think I want to try? And then we're like, okay, already, I'm done with this. And we have to remove these blocks that, funny enough, we're using to hold ourselves back. I mean, it's nice when we can blame someone else, but in this particular thing, it's you as an individual thinking about whether you should or shouldn't let go of old beliefs or some comment someone made 20 years ago or the fear of things not going the way you wanted or gosh, so many things.
I love it all. I love it all. So you had said beliefs, and as you were talking, I was making a list because I want to make sure we don't forget anything. Because letting go of one thing means you open the door for the other thing, obviously. And I say this knowing that it might sound a little negative, and I'm going to say it anyway. My life changed significantly for the better when I let go of people who were no longer supporting who I want to be. And It's not easy and it's not fun, and it made me feel like a bad person,
Mhm.
and at the end of the day, I I would not be thriving and living this amazing life if I out of a sense of duty or guilt or shame kept these people or kept people, it's not these people, it's just certain people close to me. And it doesn't mean that they're gone and I never speak to them anymore. It means how am I spending, and we've talked about this before, finite amount of energy, how am I spending it?
Mhm.
Right.
Yep, absolutely.
And sometimes those people are pretty close to you.
Yes.
It's tough. So have you do you when you have you ever let go of a person who is no longer serving you, is my question. Or serving, yeah.
Come on now. That's a huge bomb for me. I have actually. I, of course, at one point decided that it was not healthy to be connected to my mother anymore. And so that was a biggie. People have really strong feelings about that, but it worked for me. I'm not saying you should try that at home, folks, but it just worked for me. And I definitely have had some friends as I have matured who kind of stayed stuck, right? And it's okay if you're at different levels, as long as there's not that constant conversation about how much better you're doing and how they are not doing better. And they're usually the ones who want to have that conversation. And I just don't, I'm not going to feel guilty about what I'm doing. I've worked really hard to be where I am, and I haven't really had much handed to me. And so yeah, so I don't have any desire to be in a relationship where someone else is feeling bad and I wants me to feel guilty because I'm moving ahead.
So, as usual, you're super articulate, and I heard you say, "I'm not gonna feel guilty." Is that true? Like, is that you telling yourself you're not gonna feel guilty, or have you been able to train yourself that you're not gonna feel guilty?
Well, I'm not going to say I don't have moments
Right.
and I get past it, but I don't know if I could stay in a day-to-day relationship with people like that. Like I've had to really distance myself in those friendships.
Mhm.
Uh, But that said, if those people called me tomorrow and said this happened or that happened, I would be there to listen to them. It's not like,
Sure. Yeah.
right? But I just in the day to day, they're not in my tribe or my board of directors. How's that?
Love. Love. I love any reference to board of directors. So, so let's talk about work for a minute. So, for if you're a business owner, and I'm gonna ask you to talk about this, this would be like letting go of who? Like what? Let's talk people for a minute.
Okay.
Is it
So as a business owner,
yeah.
you're saying? Well, I have a story. I think you'll enjoy it.
Woo! Great.
So when I was first in Boston, and again, I was fairly young, like 22, 23 years old, and I had my hair salon because it was in the financial district. Many of our clients were men. We had some wonderful, wonderful clients, and they would go back to the office and refer the other people. And, it was really great. We had this one gentleman who would come and he would do that. But there were times where he would say maybe comments that weren't really appropriate to say to your female hairdresser.
Oof.
And then one day he came in after a liquid lunch and tried to put a tip down the front of his shirt and asked us where the room was for the massage.
You gotta be kidding me.
And this was a guy, when I tell you he sent 20 clients over, I'm not kidding, at least 20. He sent his whole office. And I called him up and I said, you know what? You can't come here anymore. I said, you can't talk to my staff like that. You can't come in here after your liquid lunch and make people feel uncomfortable. And I'm really sorry. You've been a great client, but we won't tolerate it. And the women that worked for me were like, oh my gosh, we're going to lose all these clients. And I said, really? Why? Because you think he's going to go back and say, I'm not allowed to go back anymore because I
Right.
got drunk and did something
Right.
inappropriate?
Right.
So, yeah, so that was a time where I was like, "You know what? Are we gonna allow this for money? Am I going to let my staff think it's okay to allow that for money?"
Right. 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 And I'm sure that translates to your business now with clients that are not a fit. I mean, we've
Mhm.
all
Sure.
walked away from business. Listen, we all have to put food on the table.
Yes.
But I didn't leave corporate America to to work with somebody who makes me feel yucky or that's not fun.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's scary, right, to let go of a client, especially if it's, early on in your business and you're like, "Oh, this could be a really big job," or I could be like, "Oh, this is gonna be a really big website. There's gonna be a dozen pages or whatever." And for a second, I forget that that's not really what I do. I do much smaller website projects for one person who needs to really stand out. Their brand needs to just scream off of their 3, 4, 5, pages. But I get tempted sometimes, and have taken those jobs here and there, and when I get to the end, I'm like, "For the love of God,
Right.
will no one let me someone stop me if I go to do this again?"
Yep. For
'Cause
sure.
it's not I like to make money, and I like to do it being happy and feeling fulfilled and like I did excellent work with an excellent client.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, that's living your best life
Yes.
at work. So for the corporate world, it's interesting because again, I'm still in my headspace about people. So is it the work colleagues who you feel are negative and not and bringing you down? I've done that before. Is it a team that you're on that you don't like the culture? You're not going to change the culture of the team. I mean, maybe you can try, but I don't think you're going to change the culture of the team. Is it the boss? We had a bad bosses episode where, you bad bosses ruin lives. And that's the name of the episode, actually. If you haven't played it yet, you should play it. It's pretty good. You get to decide who you let in to your precious brain and
Mm,
space and life. And the minute you really activate that belief, there's no looking back. There's just no like. Why should you have to spend time with anybody who brings you down? You don't. You don't. You
yep.
don't. Right? You just have to clear and kindly step away. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What about limiting beliefs that no longer serve you? Oh, that's a tough one. There's a lot.
Really hard, and I think that I know as the writer, I go to this all the time. I think these are the things that you really have to spew out on paper like, oh, I believe that if I do X, Y is going to happen. Why do I think that? And where did that come from? And who's backed that up for me? Where's the proof that that's effective? And what if I chose X instead? And a list of choices or options and what could the outcomes be? I think it's really important, whether it's mind mapping or whatever, that you can pull it apart and see that this is strictly a feeling driven by fear or insecurity or the unknown or old voices, and that the factual reality is it would be much better to create a new belief and live with that new belief.
I like that to switch it, to create a new belief instead. I'm writing this down. I like that a lot because as you were talking, what I was thinking was if you have this limiting belief, like let's say you want to make your side hustle a full time job, right? Or a full time career, your full time business. And the belief is, I won't be able to do it. I'm going to fail
Mhm.
because it takes a lot of guts to do it, a lot.
Mhm.
So, what I was thinking was that belief doesn't ever go away. You just do it anyway. We talked about this, like imposter feeling. You still have the belief, but you don't let it stop you.
Right.
Whereas you're saying you switch that with what would you switch that with? So, if someone listening wants to make their side hustle their full time business and they believe that the fear or the belief is I won't be able to do it and I'm going to have to go back to work with my tail between my legs and say I failed. Because I guarantee you, every person that is thinking about making their side hustle into a full time business, this is exactly what they're thinking.
Right. And you
So
know
I
what?
know,
There is risk with that, right? There is risk with it. And one of the things I say often is that, starting a business is not the big deal. It's maintaining and growing the business that really takes some stamina and some time investment and energy investment. And so I think it's good to know to know that there's risk. There's risk at a job. I mean,
mhm,
again, I'm gonna go back to Boston when I was working there and people were like, "Oh, hair salon hasn't done well here in this location and blah, blah, blah." And then, I don't know, a year after I was there, the phone company did all these layoffs, right? And
yeah,
all these people lost their
yeah,
jobs. The financial companies did all of these cutbacks and layoffs. And we were still there cutting hair. And I don't know. I've always felt that betting on myself was the best bet for me, but I think that's because I haven't worked someplace else in a corporate
Right.
setting. I don't really know any different, but I'm sorry, I feel like I'm getting off the topic a little bit.
No, it's great. The risk everywhere is a really good perspective because there's risk in staying and there's risk in going. It could be a relationship, it could be
Yes.
a job. There's always going to be risk. So which risk are you willing to accept,
Exactly.
right?
What risk are you willing to take to be happier? You know, let's say you don't make a ton of money at first. Like, you know, does it mean you have to go back to that job? Maybe you change your living situation. Maybe you cut your cable. Maybe you go out to dinner less each month. Like there are other things. It's not A or Z. There are all these things in the middle, right? It's not like, oh, if this fails. I mean, it takes a long time to know if a business is actually failing, right? You have to be in it for a bit before you turn around and say, meh, something's not quite right here. So it's not like you start today and in 3 weeks you're like, "Crap, I can't believe I made this decision. My business is failing."
Right.
You have to put some time in and, you'll change in that time, and I guess the thing you wanna think of with the belief is, I might have to go back to work for someone else, but I'm gonna go back to something different. I'm gonna go to a different place, right? If that should be it. I'm a full believer in having a plan B and being
Yep.
realistic,
Yep.
so
Yep. Yeah. I love it. The only thing I would add to that is, and because this is really top of mind, because I'm thinking through all of the programming that we're going to do for the retreat. What if you don't? Right. So which which is worse? If you try the thing, whatever it is, writing the book, speaking on stage, leaving your job, leaving a relationship, whatever the case may be. What if you don't? You can
Mhm.
have a lifetime of regret. So what's worse? Taking the chance, maybe failing, but you know, our podsters, they don't fail. They don't. Not, they don't fail huge. So it's what's worse? Not taking the chance because of the security and leading a life of average, or taking the chance, busting your chops because it is not easy to do the thing, whatever the thing may be. But, overcoming or dealing with the fear and doing it and not living with that regret. I mean, it took me, I don't know, 43, 45, 50. I started my business when I was, I think, 49. I started thinking about it when I was 45 or 48. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is there was 20 years of wondering what was on the other side. And we're here to tell you, Podsters, you will never look back when you do the thing. Never. And let go of those limiting beliefs. You won't look back. I have zero regrets.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have any? I mean, we all have regrets in life, but
No, no
doing the
regrets on my
thing.
work journey, none.
Perfect. Yeah. Do you have any regrets about starting your business?
Oh, no, I waited a while to be writing full time, and I love it, and there days where I'm like, "Crap, what am I doing? Can I work at TJ Maxx?" And then I'm like, "Who am I kidding? I'm not showing up and leaving when someone else decides what time it is or eating lunch whenever or" I'm just not I mean, if the smallest things, and I'm like, "Okay, I have to work for myself back to the drawing board." Right? I mean, you work it out. And is there risk? Are you taking risk and believing in yourself? Yes, but it's much less than the risk you take by putting your security in the hands of another person or another company or something like that. It's
Definitely. Yes. Yes. I mean, we've all seen it. We've all seen what happens
right.
when you right. How about, I think we mentioned, I don't know if it was in your list, habits, because I had a limiting habit and
Yeah,
I did it last night and I'm really kind of upset with myself.
okay. Can
And
you share it? Can you share
yeah,
with us?
yeah, yeah. I think it's a little ironic that this is on on the eve of the podcast recording. So I'm really big on habits and rituals and I don't want to say self-care. I'm big on self-care, but self engineering, right? I know what I need to do to thrive and I know what happens when I don't do it. So usually, and you all know, I keep my phone in the kitchen. I do not bring it in the bedroom. Except when I am alone in my house in the woods. I like to bring it in the bedroom in case there's a break in and I have to call 911. Okay. That's why I do it. Um, so I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, 3 in the morning, um, just because I woke up. And what did I do, Podsters? What did I do? It's the first thing I did.
Oh, you picked it up. You picked up your phone.
It's like a guilty pleasure.
It is.
Um, and I scrolled and did all the by the way, I was gonna leave you a message, but I'm like, she will, like, rail me if she sees I'm up at 3 in the morning on the Voxer. And I did stupid crap for an hour, whatever, 45 minutes or an hour, and then I got tired and fell back asleep again, and I'm like, "Okay," for a long time, if that had happened, I would have grabbed my book, and I would have lost myself in the book and fallen back asleep, and it would have been beautiful. So, I have to, so my point is, just because the phone was in the bedroom, I need to be disciplined and not do that, because what happened was, an hour and a half went by. I would have fallen asleep much faster if I had been reading. I overslept. Then I was frenetic this morning. Then I spilled my soda water on the floor.
Mhm.
Then I didn't do this. I didn't get my workout in. It's a spiral. So the limiting behaviors, or the limiting, I think we said behaviors, right? Habits. You know what they are, podsters.
Mhm.
You know what they are. And don't do what I did last night. That's what I would say.
Yep.
Just don't do it,
Yeah. I
you know?
agree. I agree with you. And, I know we did make a note here about the concept of space, right? So if you have these limiting beliefs or these things that you're not letting go of, they take up space. And
Mhm.
because they're not serving you, it's like they take up double the space. Right? Because they really don't belong there. They're like it's way past tolerations, right? It's these larger things and they're stale and frozen in their place, and it's like, clear those out, get the energy moving, the air moving, the thoughts moving, and you can, replace that space. You can fill it with twice as much positive thoughts and or ideas or whatever it is that you're trying to make space for.
I totally agree. Just because you've done it before doesn't mean you have to keep doing it. Like, I go back to the silly example of the phone. I had just, by the way, led a book club, a virtual book club, and preached to all of these women, put the phone in the kitchen. I'm a hypocrite. By the way, if you were on that book club, I really meant it at the time. And I'm not going to keep it in the bedroom. Like, I need that to feel when I'm alone in the house in the middle of the woods. That's something I need to do. I want it next to my bed. Uh,
Well,
but
I'm going to interject here and say you weren't a hypocrite. You were human, because I want our podsters to know that there are going to be moments where maybe you slip back, right? I mean,
Mhm.
it happens to everybody. The important thing is, what do you do after the slip, right?
Right. 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 Do you beat yourself up? Do you then say, "Well, screw it, I blew it. I might as well keep doing it," or whatever the case is? It was just really, I thought it was really funny and really timely, because I'm like, "Oh, okay, great, great,
Yeah.
great." Anything else about letting go of what no longer serves you before we get to the call to action, which is my favorite part?
Fancy. Dun, 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 here we go into the call to action. Yeah, I don't know. I think we've covered a lot of good stuff. What do you think?
Okay. So I have 2. Well, I have 3, but 2.
Okay.
1, Podsters, pay attention to how you're feeling around certain people.
Mhm.
And if certain people are making you feel less than or bad, I'm not saying you cut them out and there's an airing of the grievances. Do you remember that from Seinfeld, by the way, with Festivus?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
the airing of the grievances is one of the funniest episodes ever. But, and maybe it's not someone that you can let go of 100%. Maybe you let go of your attachment to their opinion. Maybe you let go of caring about how they make you feel, or maybe you let go of letting them in, but whatever the case is, pay attention to how you're feeling around certain people and adjust, because you get to decide. You don't have to feel that way, right?
Mhm.
Cool.
Yep.
What do you
Yep.
have before I give my second one?
Gosh, I have a couple things.
Okay.
And you actually just triggered something else for me, is that a great question when you're hung up on something like that is this something I can control? Sometimes we think because we have these habits or we have these beliefs and they're familiar that we're in some sort of control. And we are not, right? And you can't control what the other person does, but you can control how you deal with them. And part of that is getting comfortable with confrontation sometimes, right? And confrontation is a relative word. I could say, Nancy, I just have to tell you honestly that I didn't appreciate that you scheduled our podcast at this time because that's when I'm taking a bubble bath. And Nancy then has to choose. Is she going to say, well, who cares about your bubble bath? Or is she going to say, oh, I didn't realize, Beth. We'll have to communicate better next time. It's how are you handling your confrontational communications? And nobody likes confrontation. When people say, oh, I hate confrontation, everybody hates confrontation.
Well, and I'll tell you, you can live a life never having the difficult conversations, and that is bad.
Yes.
That's bad.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Can I add my second one?
Of course, please.
Okay. Well, actually, I'm going to steal it from you. You might have had it already. Well, what I had was pay attention to how you're thinking when you're thinking about, pay attention to how you're thinking when you're thinking about something big. And if it is, if you don't like how you're thinking or what that belief is, that limiting belief, switch it with something else. And it doesn't have to be black and white. It doesn't have to be, I am no longer afraid. I am a warrior and I will do the thing. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, switch it with, yeah, I'm scared shitless. And you know what? I'm going to do it anyway because I don't want to live with a life of regret. And I know what's waiting for me on the other side. Or, you know, can I run this half marathon? I don't think I can. But you know what? I know enough to know that I'm going to do the training and I'm going to get myself in the right shape for it. And then if I don't run it, I know that I did everything I could to prepare for it. That's what I'm saying is make a switch.
Yes. All right. I actually kind of have two more. So, if you're really struggling with figuring out what these things are and how you would let go of them, stop doing them, stop connecting with these people, whatever it is, one of the best things you can do is, get some quiet time, right? And really kind of get a little deeper into your subconscious. Maybe you stay off screen time for a while, right? Because that's a really easy one. Don't you think, Nance, to go on your phone?
Like,
Or
totally.
something like that. So no screens, maybe you need nature, maybe it's meditation, maybe you need to open your windows and sage your space, whatever you do that makes you feel like you're clearing out that sort of energy. And the last one is own it. You need to say it. You need to maybe write it down. If you come up with a new belief, like we talked about, maybe you tape it to your mirror in the morning, whatever you need to do. It doesn't need to be a declaration in the town center, but hey, if it does for you, have at it. Get your megaphone and make an announcement to everyone, whatever suits you.
Do you think I love it. Do you think the Podsters know that we have a hot pink megaphone?
I'm not sure because we haven't really showed that in a long time.
I'm gonna bring that to a future podcast. I want to tell you that I was away for 2 weeks, as many people know, and I did not bring my laptop. And yeah, to me, it wasn't a big deal because I'm like, you know what? I know what's going to happen if I bring this laptop. I'm not bringing it. Like, I don't want to deal with it. And it really was a no brainer. First of all, people are floored. They cannot believe I didn't have my laptop for 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, well, I could use my phone for anything urgent. And
Mhm.
no, I have to tell you, I came back with some of my best ideas. I came back so invigorated. I came back so refreshed and ready to just crush my business. It's you're right. You just take a step away. Take a step. It doesn't have to be a 2-week vacation without your equipment. Maybe it's 25 seconds out in the sun or whatever the case may be. I love it. I love it.
Nice.
The last call to action I want to add is, as you can probably guess, I got a lot of feedback about last week's podcast episode, which was how to do the thing. And the retreat is coming together. So this is 2.5 days. It's in Cape Cod in the idyllic seaside town of Truro. I rented a massive it's a 6-bedroom beach house. So we have 9 people. 3 of the rooms are doubles. We are going to do daily yoga, sunrise yoga. We're going to do hikes in the woods. We are going to have the DOIT process, which has worked for me and worked for hundreds of women I work with. We're going to have a private chef. It's going to be amazing. So the link's going to be in the show notes. Apply to attend. It's only 9 people. It's not a huge application. It'll take you like a minute to fill it out because I want to make sure it's the right fit. just apply. Even if you're not sure if you want to do it, apply and get the ball rolling, because I promise you, once you see everything that's included, you're going to want to do it. So that's my third call to action.
Nice.
That's what I
Excellent.
got. That's what I got.
Excellent.
What else? That's it?
What else? That's it. Yeah, I'm just waiting really patiently. I can't wait to get on our podcast and say, my new website is live.
Well, I believe you committed to July 14th. Was it July 14th or July 20 something?
Yes. Yeah. You're right. You're right. I
Yeah.
did.
Okay.
I'm close. So close.
So do you not want people to go to your website before that?
No, of course they can go to my
Okay.
website before
Okay.
that.
And they
Without a
can sign
doubt.
up for your community and do all the things in
Yes,
the
they
meantime,
my
right?
free Facebook group where we're going to start doing monthly Q&A hours on Zoom, so like we can have actual interaction. And yep, I leave some information in there that I don't put out on my business page specifically for my member people in my
Love
group.
it. So will the link to your Facebook group be in the show notes?
Yes, it will, right after the link to your wonderful retreat.
Or maybe before it. Who knows?
Maybe.
We'll have to see how it flows.
Okay.
All right, Podsters, we are OUT out. This is airing. When is this airing? Before or after 4th of July? I don't even know. I think.
Shh, don't put me on the spot with that stuff.
No, I think it's airing. Yeah, it's airing Tuesday, which is the 29th, I think, of June.
Okay.
So, whoops. And looking, does anybody else do this? I picked up my phone to look at my calendar and I swiped on my mail by accident and I deleted an email. So, June 27th, this is going to air. Have a great 4th of July, Podsters.
Yes.
And hopefully you'll be doing something fun
Yes.
and a little work-life blending
Yep.
over the holiday.
Blending, right.
Yep. So keep the ideas coming of what you want to hear about. Keep the DMs coming, the Instas, the LinkedIn, the carrier pigeon, the skywriting. Keep it all coming because we love, love, love to hear from all y'all. 40 countries, people. 40 countries. Love
40
it.
countries,
Love
55
it.
episodes. We're on a roll, folks.
We're on fire. El fuego. Peace out.
Peace.
That's a wrap, Podsters. And before we go, I ask you, what's one thing from today's episode that you will use this week to unmute yourself? DM me, email me, send a smoke signal, whatever you need to do. Let me know what you're going to do differently. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone you know and leave a 5-star review on Apple. This helps me spread our message of empowerment to more people worldwide. Let's do this.